Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast in Australia. I hope wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours that you've had a good week. I mean, it's time, I think, that we start the week on a positive note. I think we've had too much doom and gloom for so long now, and I just want to sort of swap the energy around just for this next half hour at least anyway. Try and motivate you to become a lot happier and a lot more settled in yourself, and let's sort of just brace ourselves and get ready for the mad onslaught that's ahead of us with, you know, elections around the world and different things. But we're also coming into the fun part of the year. My favourite time of the year as we head into the holiday season. And that's a time when I think that yes, it becomes a bit of madness and we're running here, there and everywhere trying to get everything done. But also I think it puts an excitement in the air. An excitement, a little bit of anticipation, a little bit of uncertainty, but a little bit where we're looking towards the future and what the new year can bring. And I think as we head into sort of more into the month of October, we all start to feel that momentum build. Here in Australia, we're sort of heading towards our warmer months of the year. So usually by this time of the year, we're all running around in summer clothing. I can assure you it's not too warm here this morning. So it's sort of, the seasons are changing and weather's not as predictable as it once was. And I suppose it's like people. People aren't as predictable as they once were either, with all the changes that are going on in the world. So this week, the Simply Tarot card of the week is the Knight of Wands. Now, if one of the things that I've learned in all the years that I've been working with tarot and been teaching it for over 40 years now, is that people always struggle with the court cards. It's like, how on earth do I tie this into a reading, Amanda? Now, general rule of thumb, knights, pages, kings and queens usually represent people and represent people that correlate with the energy or the hair and eye colouring of the card. Now, when we have a Knight of Wands, I always technically look at this as being a young man up to the age of 25. Now, the reasons why I'm saying that, we're looking more at a youthful sort of energy. We're looking at an energy there that sort of indicates we've got some fresh new ideas. Now, it can be a young man up to the age of 25 with bluey green eyes, red or brown hair. It's somebody that sort of, you still class as being erring on the side of being fair, but they're not blonde and blue-eyed. They're sort of your next shades up, sort of heading towards sort of like light brown hair, possibly blonde streaky hair, sometimes red hair. So if it's not a young person, a young man, particularly up to the age of 25, coming into your life, the secondary meaning of this card is an important letter. Now, we know in today's world, we class things like letters as being things like text messages, emails, messenger messages, some sort of message that we might get on social media that's a direct message to us. Not something that you've read on somebody's social media feed. It doesn't mean that at all. So I suppose it's really an interesting positive card in a sense to come out at the moment, because as we work through what we're going to work through in a minute, astrological wise, you'll see how this card actually sort of fits in. So there's a lot of things going on in the world at the moment that we all need to sort of, sharpen our skills up for and be ready for the things that are coming up towards us. But we need to also make sure that I think that we take a little bit of time for ourselves and make sure that it resonates or feels comfortable with us. So I want to move straight into the astrology section now, because we really do have some very important stuff to talk about this week. I'm not saying every other week isn't important. Astrologically, it's been a huge year. But now we're heading into what's known as the Mercury retrograde. Now, we have 3 of these a year. These last for approximately 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And why is this so important? Mercury is the planet of communication. Now, when it's seen to be going backwards in the universe, it means now, it doesn't mean our communication's going backwards or out the window. What it means is we have to be more aware that if we need to have a conversation that is really important or can be life-changing, or we're going into a meeting or we're going to a medical appointment, that we've really got our listening ears on and making sure that the other person clearly understands the information that we're sharing with them. Now, Mercury is about to go retrograde, so it's from October 15 or the 15th of October if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, through to Election Day in the USA, that's November 3rd, or the 3rd of November here in the Southern Hemisphere. Now, this time Mercury is in the energy of Scorpio. Now, what this will mean is that communication is going to be very intense. It's going to be deep. It's going to be meaningful. It's going to be heavy going. It's going to sort of feel like it's very complicated, as if there may be some hidden agendas there, as if there's something I'm not seeing squarely, even though you're standing there and giving me this information and looking me in the eye. Can I trust you? Are you being truthful with me? Is this something that I really want to hear? Now, it's going to be a mixed bag. In some cases, the person will be telling the truth, and it's just not the truth that you want to hear. So you need to be very, very aware of what you're absorbing, what you're listening to, what decisions you're making in these next few weeks as you unravel what the information is about. It's like unpacking a suitcase or a bag. We've got to unpack piece by piece and sort of analyse it, understand it, look at how it fits with what we believe in as an individual. Now, it's a very, very interesting time, and I know there's many elections going on. We've got a number of them going on here in Australia, and I know New Zealand's got one on the weekend. The US has got one next month. There's elections going on around the world. They're just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. So there's a lot of change going on at the moment, but there's also a lot of political BS, as I like to call it, running around. There's enough of them all spruiking at how wonderful they are and why we should vote for them. And I think sometimes we as individual people just get to a point that I just want to switch off. I don't want to hear anymore. It's not a matter of that I'm not interested in where the country's going. It's just that you give me so much, you jam so much in front of me that I get overload. And I think that's one of the things of the 21st century is that we've got so much information and so much news and so much technology coming from every different direction that we don't get any sort of downtime now that we're in a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week cycle of information and knowledge and news and world events and whatever. We don't get a breathing space. We don't get time to just sort of say, okay, I can catch up now. I can catch up with everything that's going on. I haven't had time to process everything. Now, the other area of this that we need to be aware of is that this is making an angle which is known as a trine, which is usually an easier configuration astrologically. We've got Mercury trining Neptune, the planet of illusion and delusion, in Pisces. So we need to be very aware of this. We need to make sure that we're not being hoodwinked with the information because it's easy peasy or it's what I want it to be or they're pushing the right buttons telling me what I want to hear. But we know deep down in our soul what they're spruiking, particularly politically, is maybe BS. It may also be that we're also just so tired and worn out from everything that's gone on this year with COVID that when someone says, okay, you can do something that you haven't been able to do in a while, or you don't need a mask, or you can go and sort of pack a room full of people and have a good time, that we sort of think, oh, yes, thank you. But we've got to stop and think and look at this and analyse it for ourselves. Is this right for me as an individual? Is this decision the right thing that I should be making for my health, for the people that I care about, and then only then proceed forward? So it's like we've had so much thrown at us this year that we're all just sort of, I think, brain dead in a sense and emotionally exhausted that we just want this year over with, hoping that next year's going to be different. Now, we also need to be aware of, because we've lived through this pandemic and it's still going on, I don't think we're even halfway through it yet on an astrological point of view, that we need to still remain vigilant. We need to sort of keep, sort of just taking hour by hour and doing the best that we can for ourselves. Now, the three major culprits that I've been talking about earlier this year, somebody's tickling my face from above, which is very nice of them, is Jupiter, Pluto and Capricorn. They're still, Jupiter, Pluto and Saturn are still sitting in Capricorn. The actual conjunctions or the holding hands is very tight at the moment. So we're going to start to see world leaders sort of really starting to hone their skills at the moment and hone their message as if they're sort of, their life depends on it. It's sort of almost, instead of them sharing information with us, it's like, it's going to be like they're lecturing us, or they're selling us an advertising campaign that everything's this, 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 and this, and this, and if we do this, this, and this, and this, and this, we'll get this, this, and this, and this, and this. Cut through the BS, listen very carefully to what's being said, and maybe chop it into about 20% of what they're saying might be actual factual. If you do that, I think you can protect yourself from sort of overload of too much information, and I think that's really important. And particularly as we head into a Mercury retrograde is not the time to sign a contract or sign any legal or government piece of paper if you don't have to. I know that we've got elections coming up and they're considered a legal document. Here in Australia, it's not negotiable. You have to vote. It's the law. But it doesn't mean that you can't sign your polling booth, your ballot for an election. But what I'm saying is, if you have other things to sign, make sure that you read them out loud, get someone else to read it, make sure that the information's correct before you proceed forward. It's not the time to go and ask the boss for a raise, and it's certainly not the time to have a deep and meaningful conversation with somebody if you're expecting to get a pleasant response. It may be the time to just sort of table that for a little while and just let this retrograde get out of the road, and then sort of come back and address the issues. Now, having said that, I want to look at the candle of the week this week. Now, I've chosen the candle called meditation. And the reasons why I did that is that I think we all should take a little bit of time to just breathe, still our minds, close our mind off to things, and just let some energy flow. Look, I'm not the world's greatest meditator. I have difficulty stilling my mind. I always have done. But what I've learned over the years, besides trying to work with my meditation candle and putting myself into the right energy space for that, is that I pick a piece of music that really sort of resonates with my soul, and I give myself those few minutes to close my eyes and listen to that piece of music and just focus on the music. I focus on nothing else except the music. Now, I find that's my personal meditation, which works for me. And as you can appreciate, in the busy sort of life that I have and helping people, I need to be able to clear my energy. I need to be able to rebalance myself. And that's the quickest form that I've found. So if you're one of those people that has difficulty stilling your mind and spending 15 minutes or half an hour trying to meditate, and you think, it's not for me, I've tried it so many times and it just doesn't work, try that method, because it's something, if you pick a particular song, that even when you're feeling stressed out at work, or you're in the car and you're sitting in a traffic jam, if you take yourself back to that song in your mind, or even start singing it, you'll find then that you get that same meditative feeling, that you start to feel your body relaxing and sort of releasing all the stress and the tension that's been around you. So I think we could all do with that, particularly as we head towards a Mercury retrograde, and particularly after the year that we've had. I think we all need to find ways to sort of bring some peace and tranquility into our lives and enable us to just sort of get off the merry-go-round, even if it's only for 3 minutes. Now, I'm sure many of you have many different favourite songs that, you might find it difficult to narrow it down to one, but maybe even if that's the case, choose a song for the week. It doesn't really matter, but it's about learning to be able to still our minds long enough that we can have a little bit of a breather. We're going to talk with Helen now in Johnstown in Pennsylvania. Are you there, Helen?
Yes.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, Helen?
Can you repeat that?
Do you have a question I can work with, sweetie?
Yes. Do you do mediumship questions?
I don't normally, because of such the short time we've got on the show. I prefer to work with something that's currently going on in your life. If they want to chime through from the other side, I will certainly share with you anything that I'm given. Do you have a question about something that's going on in your life at the moment?
No, I really went just to connect with my mother.
Yeah, but darling, we don't have a direct dial telephone that we can just dial them up when we feel the need or that we want to. We've got to understand that most of the time they're happy to come through and talk to us, yes, but most of the time they really are just happy to be with us. They don't really feel the need to come forward with some life-changing message or something that you need to be aware of. They're just happy to be with you. I can assure you your mother never leaves your side. She's always with you. She's always around you. She wasn't necessarily here on earth a very gushy sort of person, was she? If that's the one I'm picking up from the other side. I'm picking up a woman that to me would have stood back a little bit, didn't really sort of open up about her feelings. Was that your mum?
Yes.
Because that's the energy that she's sharing with me. The only other thing she shared with me was that there's a massive change or an ending or something that you've just completed or are about to complete, and she says about time. So is there something that's just shifted or changed in your life in the last 3 months?
I can't think right now of anything.
No, but is there something that you're working on? Because the way she was showing it to me was it was like, this is it. Like, I'm finished. Like something that was major, something that you were working towards completing.
No.
Well, she's arguing with me. She's telling me that there is. Now, whether that's just that you've shifted the energy within yourself, that you're now sort of starting to become more forthright again, that you've taken your own power back.
Okay.
The reason I'm saying that is because she was very definite in the way that she showed me that symbol of an ending, change, transformation, or something that is completed. Now, if you've got nothing that's major and you wouldn't need to think about it, you'd say, oh, yes, I've just moved house or I've just changed my job or a relationship, whatever, you would know. If it's not that, then the secondary meaning to that in their symbolism to me is that you've now started, you've completed a lot of things within yourself, that you're taking your own power back, that you're ready to sort of move forward now in a way with a lot more confidence in yourself. And she's showing me a question mark. Was there something there that you questioned around her passing?
Yes.
Because she's saying to me, you need to let go of that. Like you'll never get what she considers as an answer to satisfy you. Like just let it go. There's nothing here to see, sort of thing. You know, like you've got all the answers.
Right.
She wants you to move forward. She sort of feels that you've been in this limbo. That's what it is. She's telling me now. You've been in limbo for too long. It's time to now take the reins to your life and get going. There's a lot of things to be done. There's a lot to look forward to. So, you know, I mean, she's around you all the time. You know, all you've got to do is, if you really need an answer to something, is have a conversation with her before you go to sleep of a night out aloud and say to her, Mum, this is what I need an answer for. And whatever comes into your mind first thing in the morning when you wake up is her guidance. You don't always have to agree with it. You don't even always have to understand it, but look at what first comes into your mind, write it down how you felt, and then try and work out what the cryptic message is. They can't give us a definite, this is what you should do. They usually give it to us in symbolism because it's up to us to take the reins to our life. They can't control us.
Okay.
But I can assure you she's always with you, and she's very, very proud of you. She's giving me a beautiful big pink heart. And she's sending you all her love. Yeah, and she wants a really big Christmas tree this year.
Okay.
No, she just showed me this ginormous Christmas tree with twinkling lights, and she just, you know, and it was exaggerated. So I was taking that as she wants a big Christmas tree and she wants you to enjoy the holiday season. So that's what she wants for you, Helen. So just, you know, do as Mum says, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
All right. Lovely to talk with you, Helen. We're going to talk with Judy in British Columbia in Canada. Are you there, Judy?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Very well, thank you, sweetie. Do you have a question I can work with?
Yes, I'm interested to know about moving, where you think that might possibly be, and what I should do for maybe to prepare for it.
Okay. I don't know that your moves just yet. They're sort of showing me it's there, but it's like we haven't quite got everything ready yet. It's like, you know that there's a move coming up. You know that you should be moving, but I don't know that all the pieces are there to the puzzle yet. It's like, I want to say to you, slow down a little bit. You're trying to go ahead of where you should be. You've been such a good girl and done all your homework really well. Now it's sort of like, you know, you've got a free bit of time before we start the next project. So I'm sort of seeing on the timeline that they're showing me is that this move's not going to come before the end of this year. I'm sort of looking more towards about February, March next year. Does that fit in with your timeline?
Yes, it does.
Good, because that's when they're showing me. They were showing me that the remainder of this year is just sort of like making sure we tidy up the loose ends. Was there two particular...
It's interesting that you say that, because I'm currently in a legal dispute with where I'm living, and that there's going to be a phone call that resolves that on the 20th of November. So I wasn't sure if that was going to be in my favor, or whether my lease actually goes till May of next year. I wasn't sure if maybe I would be here till that point.
I feel it's going to be in your favour, and I do feel it's going to be wrapped up. I don't know that we'll get a conclusion on that date in November, but I'm sort of seeing 7 to 8 days after that, it's like the final decision or the answer comes, and it's like, wow, now I can really put everything into action.
I see, but that's going to be before the end of the year, and there's the possibility that if the decision goes in a particular way, I could possibly have to move in 10 days. And is that the case?
No, I don't feel you're going to have to move within days. Even though I see the decision before the end of the year, I don't think you're going to have to move within days.
Well, that's fabulous news, because where I live, the weather is really awful, and I'm not wanting to move in the middle of it.
Yeah, because what that was sort of showing me was this legal thing will be sort of, yes, okay, the 20th, and then I think about 8 days after that or 10 days after that, we get the result of that. But then the result of that was you didn't have to have the action that's got to be taken by that. It's just got to be wrapped up by the end of March. So it's sort of like there's a bit of time there. But I was going to come back to, just before we started talking about the legal thing, was there two potential destinations that you had in your sights as far as the move?
I wasn't really sure. I was thinking about maybe a town called Parksville and another town called Courtenay, and they're both on a place called Vancouver Island, which is the west coast of British Columbia.
Right. Well, because I'm in Australia and I don't know your geography that well, I can only go with the way that they present it to me. And they presented it to me, whatever your first thought was, the first location that really jumped out at you, to me was the strongest one. It wasn't necessarily because it was first, was it the strongest? It was just out of the two choices, that was the one that they showed me that you needed to explore first. It's like there's more there. It just feels right. Where the second one doesn't feel as full. It doesn't feel as exciting to me.
Okay, that's very good news, because the first one is a place I have not been before, and I currently live in a town of only 1,800 people, and it has all the things that go with living in a small town. And this other place, Parksville, is much, much bigger with more opportunity and more support, I think.
Good. Well, that's where they want you to go. But what they're sort of showing me is that this is, besides it being life-changing because you're moving, it's like there's so much more for your life to sort of unfold. It's like they keep showing me as if somebody's been trying to push your head underwater for many, many years, and you've been trying to pull your head out and breathe, and then sort of you get put down again, and then you come up for air again, and it's like you've been fighting this constant sort of battle. It's like that'll all be gone with the move. It's like I've got an opportunity now to make decisions that really resonate with me, the person Judy, not for what anyone else needs. And that's a good thing. I was also picking up a male in spirit who I was going to suggest is, I think, possibly a grandfather or a great-grandfather. It was a more senior-looking gentleman, and he's got a rounded sort of face with this beautiful smile. And if he's a grandparent, I'd say he was a little bit of a rebel with a cause. I don't think he conformed to what the rest of the family thought. Well, he's asking you to take on board his energy. You know, be a bit of a rebel with a cause. Do something for you. You know, it doesn't always have to conform with everyone else. So you know, you can relate to what I'm talking about, can you?
Oh, my stars, you have no idea. You are absolutely on the money, and you're the only person yet to recognize about the, you know, my head being pushed underwater, and have the knowledge that
yeah, well, they just showed it to me very clearly. They just showed it to me very clearly. I just give the messages as they give them to me, and sometimes I sort of think, gee, you can't say that. It seems ridiculous. But I've learnt to go with it because, as you know, to me it made no sense to me, but it made a lot of sense to you. But if that's your grandfather or whoever he is, he's got a cheeky smile, and he reminds me of old Grandpa Walton, you know, where he had always had mischief in his eyes.
Wow, I you know what? I don't know who that could be, but I'll have to sit with that and think about that. And
yeah,
definitely take on the energy regardless. It sounds good.
You. It's definitely either a grandfather or a great-grandfather, and you may not have even known him. It may just be family stories that you can tie into who I'm talking about, but whoever he is, he's got a watchful eye over you, and he wants you to be a rebel with a cause, as he was known in the family. So we're going to have to leave it there, Judy. I really appreciate working with you today, and good luck with your move. So we've come to the end of the show, so I want everybody to sort of pick your favourite song. I know what my producer's going to pick. He's going to pick a Helen Reddy song, and he'll say it's no surprise I'll have a David Cassidy song rolling through my head as meditation this week. But whatever your favourite song is, make sure that you listen to it and use that as your form of meditation to help you through this madness of the Mercury retrograde for the next 3 weeks. And enjoy your week wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours. Be kind to each other. Bye for now.